Hi, everyone. Welcome to Friday Forum. My name is Megan Fitland. I am the president elect of PRSA Silicon Valley. I'm filling in for Vanessa this morning or afternoon, depending on where you are located. Today's forum is all about earning trust in today's attention economy. Sorry. Thank you to Manhattan Strategies, who will be presenting today, and all of you who have joined. I want to welcome Maxwell Morgan, who is the principal of Manhattan Strategies, an independent consulting firm obsessed with telling compelling visual stories. Welcome, Maxwell.
Hi, Megan.
Perfect. Is your team on?
Yes, everybody's here. We're very excited to be a part today.
Hi.
Megan, should we jump into it?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do it. Well, thank you so much on behalf of our team for having us on today. We're really excited to chat through earning social trust and the attention economy. Before we jump in, I want to just recognize briefly that it's Earth Day, and we're seeing amazing campaigns across brands. Amazon has enabled customers with Alexa-enabled devices to donate $1 to plant one tree by simply asking Alexa to grow a tree. And Apple is donating $1 to the WWF for every Apple Pay transaction made. And so we all hope everybody is able to demonstrate their organization's commitment to Earth Day today and every day. So, whether it's business or politics, our objective is to win people's hearts. Excuse me, whether it's business or politics, our objective is to win people's hearts and change their minds. And to understand what's happening in the world around us, let's take stock of where we are. We're on year 2 of a global pandemic. Remote work and learning has given way to a hybrid everything world. And as a result, the marketplace of ideas, services, and products has flooded the digital space. It's added unprecedented noise to conversations and given rise to what we call the attention economy, where people's attention is currency. The result of everything that a leader or a brand does to build a reputation, stimulate conversation, or drive sales. It's everything a service company does to promote a positive, sticky experience. This is attention. The attention economy was first conceptualized by Nobel laureate Herbert Simon, who said that attention was the bottleneck of human thought. As the Berkeley Economic Review says, like money, we all crave and need attention to a certain degree. Money is needed for food, water, and shelter. Similarly, attention can be translated to such tangibles necessary for survival. As babies, we cry, laugh, make noises, and want the attention on us. Otherwise, we're not fed, clothed, or do not survive. However, money and attention are distinct. Money follows attention, whereas the reverse is not necessarily true. During the pandemic, we've sat home in quarantine, and we could see this play out in real time. Just like Herbert Simon predicted, the restriction of tangible activities thrust our focus on information and was a glide path for the attention economy. Beyond our collective focus on Tiger King and sourdough bread recipes, the most prolific example of the attention economy is GameStop. It's a convolution of the assumptions within today's capitalist system, upended by the challenge and value for attention versus money. And this is exactly what Herbert Simon predicted, that people's attention and collective focus are greater currency than money. I mean, we could look at how GameStop happened from a guy named DFV Holding to a troop of retail buyers fueled by resentment toward a perceived enemy and driven by memes. The definition of a meme is attention. So today is about earning trust in this environment and navigating client goals and value in doing so. And to that end, we're going to start off with the first of 3 modules and walk through first why every client gets one step closer to success with visuals first storytelling. As we go along here, we would encourage you to leave messages in the chat and we'll address them at the end of each section and at the end of the session. And so first, I'd love to hand it over to my colleague, Megan.
Thanks, Max. Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Schaefer, and I'm an associate for executive storytelling here at Manhattan Strategies. And like Max just explained, I'm going to talk a little bit about visual first storytelling and why it's so important for digital thought leadership in the attention economy. So, as we know, and as we believe strongly at Manhattan Strategies, people are motivated by what they see. Our brains process images 60,000 times faster than text. We remember 10% of what we hear, 20% of what we read, and 80% of what we see. And while it takes just 100 milliseconds to decide to move your eye, your brain can process what it sees in just 13 milliseconds. But at the same time, the human attention span is crumbling. While some experts dispute widely shared claims, others say that a human attention span is 8 seconds, down from 12 seconds about 20 years ago. And while all of this is going on, we have the means to feed our brains, reciprocate the manna, and because for the first time since the age of the Egyptians, visual communication is democratized. Global smartphone adoption and internet access is enabling more people to communicate across languages, economic circumstances, and geography by using the universal understanding of visuals. Here's what that looks like in real time. People are updating their friends about their everyday through Snapchat, through Instagram stories, even through TikTok. You can do something like submit a resume through TikTok. Whereas comms could once reliably focus its efforts on simple, staple trade media or local media or tech websites, we're seeing not just a realignment, but a disalignment. And that's the attention economy, decentralized media and information. And no single institution does this affect more than comms. And that's why a compelling visual strategy is now considered a fundamental part of comms strategy. But that doesn't mean just slapping up any visual, and you need to be strategic and thoughtful about your visual strategy. Here are 3 keys that are helpful to keep in mind when it comes to visuals. First, people know when you're trying too hard. People are intuitive. They can tell when you're being ingenuine or posting just with the intention of going viral. Next, showing human warmth and emotion. People like to see other people, they like to see faces, and they like to know that there's another human on the other side of the computer. Finally, being visual is subjective. When developing a visual strategy, you want to keep in mind what people expect to see versus what people don't expect and how you can subvert expectations. Something that I respond to visually might not be the same as something you will, so you have to think about your audience, and you can't treat visual strategy as one size fits all. And I think another important thing to keep in mind is that none of us are designers. We're all in PR or come from a comms background, but that doesn't mean we can't think about visual strategy as it exists in lockstep with comm strategy.
Amazing. Megan, I'm curious, what are some amazing examples of visual first storytelling, Leah and Alana, that you might be able to share?
Yeah, I'm happy to kick things off. My name is Leah Connolly. I am the director of social media at Manhattan Strategies. I think one that is more recent that really stands out to me is a recent campaign that Heinz Ketchup did. So, as Megan said, we used to have to engage consumers more formally, and social and digital media has really allowed for the democratization of visuals. So, Heinz polled people and asked them to draw what comes to mind when they just think of ketchup. They didn't ask them or prompt them that it has to be Heinz. And almost everybody just drew Heinz ketchup. And then Heinz took that campaign a step further. They used what people drew in those illustrations and they put them on actual ketchup bottles in stores. So they were then able to bridge the gap between digital media and the more traditional retail experience and really just like have it all come together. And I think that's like a great example of modern visual first storytelling.
So, like, what a campaign like this might have looked like 15 or 20 years ago is Heinz goes out, it polls people to determine their familiarity with their visual ID or with their brand, and then they release a press release on folks, or they use it for internal intelligence. What they're able to do now is make that totally visual and then tell the story that way.
Exactly.
I love that. Alana, what's another example?
Yes, well, first of all, I want to make sure everyone can hear me.
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay, great. So hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Alana. I am a senior communications manager here at Manhattan Strategies. So I will definitely speak to this one here. As you can see, it is a very simple error message on a billboard. Sorry, our entire budget went to excellent customer service. And not only is it hilarious, but it's also eye-catching, even though it's simple, because everybody has seen that error message at one time in their life, and it sends a clear message. Our theme is excellent customer service, and we want you to know that through our branding that we pay attention to it. And so in a simple way, they definitely caught your eye in a visual, in this visual storytelling example, in a way that was very clever and cheeky.
So the takeaway here is, you don't have to take a masterclass in Photoshop in order to effectively deploy visual first storytelling.
Exactly.
Any examples from the audience? Anything come to mind for folks? We'd love to hear it in the chat and then talk about it at the end. So that's our first sort of segment here in earning trust in the attention economy. Next, we want to talk about who today's audiences engage with and how your clients can escape the erosion of trust. And for that, I'll hand it over to Alana.
Okay, so hello again. Super excited to jump into this one on authenticity. So kicking it off, in this current moment, we are in a global crisis of misinformation and disinformation, and it's pretty well known across social. According to the Edelman Trust Barometer, trust is a major component not only in regular human interaction, but just with employers and corporations, which is a super important factor in authenticity. So at this time, while there is a major call to action for brands and businesses to keep it real, it's important to understand that being real and fostering this authentic content forges deep connections with an audience and encourages brand loyalty and respect. And from a business and PR perspective, it creates ongoing engagement. As a result, can increase your return on investment, which we'll get to a little bit later. So how can we be the solution here? We have this really funny meme that I'm not going to let you, I did not get at first, but the quote here is very funny because it speaks to this moment of a clear metaphor of someone who is out of touch and like kind of trying to stay in touch. So how do we fix this across our social strategy? Number one is transparency is real. Authentic reporting not only builds trust, but it safeguards your reputation amongst your audience. It keeps the momentum going, and people like honesty and are typically inspired by authentic reporting. Number two here is actions speak louder than words. The takeaway here is your audience is smart. And however smart you think they are, it's safe to assume that they're 10 times smarter, right? It's easy to tell whether someone is being genuine online or not. And so, like I said, real equals respect. An example that I like to give is like at the time in 2020, during the beginning of the pandemic and the events of the summer of 2020, there were moments like BLM and a call to social justice that called for true reporting. And this goes kind of back to the transparency section, but saying what you want to do and what you are doing, but also acting on it. And so number three here is defining your perspective. What are you able to speak truthfully to, and what makes your value stand out from other companies? This speaks to why should people listen to you and your brand, and why should people care? So moving on, the three authentic keys, get it? Authentic. Is to start or continue your conversation. This means like don't just broadcast the conversation. A conversation is a two-way street, right? It involves engagement. It involves being real. Share a point of view, and then be mindful of timeliness. What is happening around you that requires your attention before you post, before you act, and how you can avoid being inauthentic in those moments.
Thanks, Alana. The question to this is like, we can look at where authenticity has gone wrong. And I have two examples where I think authenticity has gone wrong, and then I would love to hear what you all think. The first is in the 2012 election. After the election, we learned that Mitt Romney, who had a reputation for being robotic, required 22 people to approve his tweet. So when it comes to authenticity, this is the antithesis of authenticity, is taking a guy who has a reputation for being robotic and then requiring it to go through 22 different filters prior to it hitting the intended audiences. And then the second, which is categorically different, but it's how you can be authentic while still sort of playing within the rules. And that's, let's do it in a way without violating the law or regulations with the SEC. And so, yes, you should be authentic, but you should do it in a way that is proper. So with that, would love to hear your thoughts about where you all have seen authenticity go wrong.
I can jump in for this one. So I'm sure we all remember the infamous Kendall Jenner Pepsi ad where, of course, she's at a protest and brings it to a halt by giving the police officers that are there trying to break it up a Pepsi, and everyone is happy and can move on after that. Everyone probably remembers this got a lot of backlash. Kendall Jenner and Pepsi both came under fire for this really tone deaf ad. It was especially considered insensitive in the moment. It came off extremely inauthentic. And the message itself, what giving a Pepsi to a cop during an extremely contentious moment, just really didn't land with anyone across the landscape at the time.
Like our lesson here in us internally chatting this through was like, Alana said this best. She's like, trust your intern. Like they're like, trust folks who, have their eyes and ears to where you're going to be deploying this. And Peyton just said the Imagine video at the beginning of the pandemic. Yeah,
Yes.
100%.
We talked about the Imagine video yesterday, and it's very similar to both this and the Kendall Jenner Pepsi ad, even though they happened at very different times. I think, and exactly what Alana said, trust the intern and know that like it's very similar to the like philosophy of groupthink. It's really easy to get caught up, and you have to sometimes listen to the person who has that courage to step forward and say, hey guys, I don't think this is super authentic to the brand, and here's why, or I don't think this is really speaking on the right thing in the moment, or it's going to land well. It's having faith that that person who's speaking up, and like whether they're the intern or a low level person or a high level person, just making sure that they're heard, because calling things out in authenticity, it really does go a long way. It's an important check that we need to make sure we keep implementing.
And what's interesting too, as we talk about the attention economy, is how quickly everything is moving. If you're Duolingo and you're running a TikTok account, you're able to keep up with the trends sort of like on a minute by minute, hour by hour basis. And so as we move forward over the next 3, 5, 7, 10 years, what's going to happen is the brands who really rise to the top are going to be those who have the most efficient corporate governance for defining sort of how their comms is managed and then deployed when they want to participate in those moments. And just one other example.
Yes, I'd love to talk about this one. So this one starts a little earlier in the timeline, but in 2018, Tarte dropped a very highly anticipated Shape Tape foundation. And for those who are not so familiar with the makeup industry, it was a spin-off of their cult favorite Shape Tape concealer, which I know myself, I pretty much religiously used from like middle school to probably the end of college. And it was very highly anticipated. A lot of people were looking out for it. So when it came out, it had a very limited offering of shades. And as you can see from the swatches on this arm here, it's very clear the majority of them were meant for white people. It was not inclusive whatsoever. And they did hype it up in the moment that it was going to be inclusive. So they immediately received backlash on that. But then, noting on what Alana noted on before, come summer 2020, they also released a lot of statements and used their social channels and platforms to communicate their allyship with the BLM movement, and proceeded to then receive even more backlash because it was already clear, especially in their own recent actions, that they weren't doing that. They weren't being inclusive in their makeup offerings. Their shade range was very limited, and that's already a very highly contested area within the cosmetics industry, is shade inclusivity.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then they and many other brands at the time, I think, really fell victim to this idea of like having to engage in a trend in the moment, but not checking themselves on authenticity and just making sure they were participating in these social justice conversations, but not mashing their actions or even their prior actions or acknowledging their prior actions with the words that they were putting out on their social channels. And I think it comes back to a lot of what Alana was saying. It's about being mindful of timeliness, but then making sure that those actions that you're claiming or the beliefs that you're claiming to uphold actually show forward in the actions or the products or whatever industry it is that you put out there.
Right. Specifically in this example, it speaks to if you are a person or a company or whatever who says that they are about inclusivity and diversity, people are going to want to see proof, and they are going to track you on that. So, it's like whatever hashtag you have in your bio, well, like people are going to want to see the receipts, and they're going to want to, make sure that it's authentic, and that is going to definitely show on your social posting.
Somebody commented in the chat here, brands should also know that consumers can find out which of them walk the walk, with an example just being like
Yeah.
vis-a-vis executive
100%.
profiles. And like
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Like you
know,
can't say, go ahead,
yeah.
Max.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think Earth Day is a perfect example. And I know this happened recently with International Women's Day. There was like a bot on Twitter that was calling out every company that I think it was based in the UK that tweeted their message for International Women's Day. The bot retweeted them with the pay gap between their female and male employees. And that it was going incredibly viral because it's like you can't put, same with Earth Day, you can't put that message out there that you are passionate about sustainability or carbon emissions or just anything related to sustainability and then not put your actions in line with that.
You know, this conversation, just to the idea of consumers finding out which of them walk the walk, with executives specifically, this conversation here is about earning trust on social and the attention economy. But you know, we could double click into the idea of people knowing sort of how authentic, you know, executive leadership is. And we can look at the example of the latest company who had their emails leaked about price elasticity with their employees, based on rising gas prices. And so it's not just your public persona, but it's truly how you conduct yourself, online and offline. So we'd love to hear any additional thoughts in the chat, and we could get to them at the end. The last segment here is about what every PR pro needs to demonstrate ROI. And for this, we'll hand it over to Leah.
Cool. Hi, guys. As I said previously, my name is Leah Connolly. I am the director of social media at Manhattan Strategies, and I'm going to talk about success. So, the reality we all know as comms and PR professionals is that as we see social media rise in popularity and become more and more in our face daily, we're also seeing the lines between comms and marketing blur. And included in that is also budget. And this often means that the clients that we work with, or also internally at your own organization, people want to see a return on investment in social. As PR professionals, we have a responsibility to demonstrate that, whether that's to your client or internally to whoever you report to in your organization. So, when we conduct social strategy that's guided by this emphasis on ROI, there are two main considerations for this. First is that platforms are comprised of audiences. Audiences on every platform look different. On LinkedIn, it's a very professional network. Any individual or brand's LinkedIn audience is inherently going to look different than who follows them on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok. So it's remembering who that audience is and making sure every strategy is targeted at the audience that's unique to that platform. And then also the second part is that your goals will vary among the platforms. And it's important to make sure you set from the start, which we'll talk about a little later, but what those goals are for each platform. But noting that the LinkedIn goals or the Instagram or the Twitter goals, those can all be a different goal, but you have to make sure that your strategy on each is speaking to whatever the goal is on that respective platform. And so, how do we actually go about quantifying impact? And because we're all comms professionals here, we're not unfamiliar to this idea of qualitative success. But it's really important to note that a lot of other industries, whether that be clients or people who work within your own organization who are just in a different department, they're not as familiar with this idea of qualitative success. So we have to often justify and explain why qualitative success is of equal importance, and that it's just something you have to make sure that you're doing. So also, when you set out to shape that strategy, when you look at the audience and when you look at the goals, it's important to note how you define success and what that actually means before you get too far down the line of putting that strategy together. And then once you know what that parameter for success is, how do you sculpt the reporting tools and the analytics you use to help demonstrate your strategy is leading to that success? And that's true of both qualitative and quantitative comms, but it's really important to make sure that you're sculpting that strategy from the start and that's clearly defined. And then it's also important to note when your reporting includes or is focused on those quantitative results, because we all know at the end of the day, it's social media, engagements, followers, they're always going to play a role in the analytics that you put together. When your reporting is including those quantitative results, you want to make sure you're always determining a reporting period that is capturing the proper sample size, as well as benchmarks for the client or internally to help contextualize what that change looks like over time. So if that is a month over month analysis, if it's quarter over quarter, if it's biannual, if it's year over year, you want to make sure you're setting out from the beginning saying, is this going to be enough time to capture what we're looking to capture? Or is this just not going to do it justice yet? And then as far as benchmarks go, is that going to look like, I think about those like fundraiser things, if you ever went to those growing up and they had a giant poster board that looked like a thermometer and they would color it in when they got, donations working up to a specific goal. Do you show something like that working up to a goal? Do you show a chart that, tracks it over time? What is the most effective way to conceptualize and make people understand what you are working towards?
So Leah, sorry.
No, it's fine. I was going to say, the three keys to really keep in mind here is when it comes to return on investment and tracking analytics and, proving and quantifying that success, the first off is you really have to become obsessed. I know that I talk to everyone on the Megan, Alana, Max daily on updates, as well as clients updates on, we hit this milestone. Look at how well this post performed. This is really great comments we're seeing here. In order to be good at tracking analytics and looking at that quantitative data, you have to do it very, very regularly. You also have to become flexible. On a platform like LinkedIn or Instagram, algorithms rule the day and they change frequently. And a lot of working in social is being able to decipher them and keep up with the latest trends and shifts. But you also have to adopt your strategy to make sure you're accounting for that so that you can deliver the KPIs that you're expected to. And then also, I know I touched on this before, but helping your client or team understand, why are you looking at what you're looking at? It's easy to assume that we all talk about the same things and we know what these terminology means, or we know why, reach or views are important. But it's also important to make sure the team you're working with or the client or whoever you're reporting to understands why you're looking at this, because it isn't always as inherently obvious as we might think it is.
So Leah, curious, without going through sort of a math lesson here, what are some compelling ways you've seen success reported both quantitatively and qualitatively?
Yeah, and definitely not a math lesson because I'm not good at math, but quantitatively, this can look something like very traditional as a dashboard that's looking at things like retweets, shares, comments, likes, very traditional in that sense. Can also be goal tracking. Are you, like I said, filling up that thermometer on the way towards a certain goal, or a chart that shows your progress and growth over time? And then there's also tangible outcomes, which is something binary. It could be, are you working for a political candidate? Did they win the primary or the election that they were in? It's a yes or a no. It's very quantitative. And
what
then
about
go ahead.
qualitative?
I was going to say the qualitative is where you get a little, and I know most of are likely creative people, you get a little outside of the box when it comes with qualitative. This would be awards that are maybe not the traditional awards that have to do with selling the most of something or being the number one partner of this. It's more of a little bit, you're getting recognized for your digital campaign about, XYZ. Could be anecdotes. I've had people tell me or reach out to me saying, this is such a cool post that this brand or this company did, or things like that. People are talking or continuing the conversation about something that you worked on or your team worked on to put out there on social media. And then also promotions. People can use social media. And I know we've talked a lot about brands or clients in this. You can use social media for yourself as well as a way to increase visibility on what you can offer professionally. And it can help you get a promotion, or someone that you're working for get promoted to a higher role because people are looking at them or yourself as a thought leader.
There was an article recently on this last one. There was an article recently in, I think, Business Insider, Leah, that talked about how executives are hiring freelancers to to help them elevate their profile to create basically like an influencer status in the professional environment in order to get promotions.
Yeah,
It's
I was gonna say I saw that article too. I think we talked about it, but yeah, it's really interesting. It's a lot of eyes on it.
So we would love to hear compelling ways from this group that you've seen success reported, and we'll chat about it in just a moment. But to sort of tie all of these three pillars together, we talked through why every client gets one step closer to success with visuals first storytelling, because visuals are democratized now. Everybody has access to visuals. They're innate and they transcend language and geography. We learned that who today's audiences engage with and how your clients can escape the erosion of trust. It's about authenticity and not going outside of what you truly are. And lastly, we talked about what every PR pro needs to demonstrate ROI, both qualitatively and quantitatively. And so with this, we'd love to open it up for more general discussion. And we'll start off with the first comment that came in through Facebook here. The trend of rainbow washing during Pride Month has been called out more frequently in recent years. How can companies and brands best communicate their values and advocacy without virtue signaling or coming off as insincere? Alana, do you want to take this one?
Yeah. So I think that this goes back to true reporting and starting and continuing the conversation. So with true reporting, I think the most authentic way to make sure that your message is clear and accurate and it's something that you truly value is to set that perspective from the beginning. We stand for LGBTQ rights. We are a company. This is what we do. This is what we're actively doing to push that message. And I think once you set that standard from the beginning, whatever it may be, it will show in your social planning. And then continuing the conversation. I'm very adamant on Pride Month is every month, right? Like we are not, it's the same for every month. We are not here just for Pride Month. We are here to celebrate the LGBTQ community today and beyond. So just making sure that that's clear, and you won't have someone come back to you and say, why is this the only time that you're saying this?
Right. And I think it goes back to what Alana was saying too in the authenticity section. If those actions, if you don't have any proof points to come back and support your actions, if you have employees that don't feel like you are, everything that's coming out during Pride Month and they're like, this doesn't align with what's going on internally, or you're not doing things involved in your local community or supporting organizations and you can't back that up, then take a step. Then it's where this holds true for any of those, like honestly, and there's lots of months, and Earth Day is a great example as well. If you don't have the actions to back those up, first of all, that's an internal issue, but it's like, take a step back, realize, is there anything more we can be doing? Because we shouldn't maybe put out a message until we're sure 100% that we've crossed all our T's and dotted all our I's and made sure that this is aligning with the actions, but also the belief systems that we adhere to.
It seems like, Megan, from a visual strategy point of view, this is something that you could leverage as well, where it's not just turning your logo, into a rainbow for Pride Month. It's demonstrating visually how your team and how your company, lives out those values.
Absolutely. I think you'll often see a lot of companies come under flack too, because come July 1st, the rainbow Pride logos are gone and there's no hide nor hair of anything to do with Pride Month for anything at a company. So it's really about talking the talk, walking the walk, and making sure that it's present in your strategy, not just for the month of June, but all the time.
I'd like to go sort of a more general, sort of broad question for the group is what do you think lies ahead for social? Leah, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think, as we know, social media has really taken over, and it's crazy to look what that looked like even 5 years ago to now. It has evolved and changed so much. And I think what we're already starting to see, but I think is only going to keep going and keep progressing more, is that social media has the power to be both constructive and destructive. It can construct communities, it can construct ideologies, it can make things happen or possible, connect people in ways that are not ever seen before, or completely around the world, going against like ages, cultures, anything. You can unify people in ways or bring new ideas to the marketplace. But it also has the power to be destructive. But yes, that can include a lot of bad things, but it also can be destructive of, ideologies or institutions that are not, aligned with our modern day values or where our society is now. So it has a lot of power. But I also think the destructive, I have to acknowledge also that it can be cancel culture. There are dangers to social media as well in that destructive category. But overall, I think we're just going to continue seeing more and more that social media has such a great power and influence over our world. And it is a really powerful tool if you know how to use it and wield it correctly. With great power comes great responsibility. And I do think that that's like true with social, especially when you're working with a company or brand, or you yourself have a really big platform.
Yeah, Alana, anything to add there?
Yes, I was just going to say, we know it's shown us now that content is king. And I think there will come a time where content will be like the driving factor of how we make decisions in companies and what they've shown us, and explain to us who we are. And like, it's social media is so trackable these days. And I just wanted to reiterate, like, if you are a communications major or a PR major right now in college, please stay in it, because because it is like becoming so much of a growing factor across all types of brands, across all type of creative avenues, where there's going to be so many new opportunities, especially in today's like digital, like kind of separated still world.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for your time today. I think the main takeaway here is be authentic, incorporate a visual first storytelling strategy, and demonstrate ROI for your clients and for your team. And so with that, Megan, back over to you.
Thank you, Max, and thank you to the entire Manhattan Strategies team. This was an excellent presentation, a lot of good insights. Just want people to remind people to follow us on social. Join us every Friday at 11 a.m. For more PR and marketing discussions. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week and take care. Bye.